Hello, and welcome to the Emergency Assistance for Non-Public Schools, or EANS, EANS program, Phase 2 Budget Application Walkthrough. Today, we're going to be demonstrating the budget application process. Please note, the EANS program and application process consist of two separate phases. Phase 1 was the eligibility phase, where schools completed their eligibility application. This phase resulted in a final population of eligible schools and final approved allocation amounts for each eligible school. Phase 2 is the budget phase, where schools that were deemed eligible in the application phase will now complete their budget application to request reimbursement of allowable expenditures and/or procurement of allowable future expenditures. The budget application should only be filled out by those schools that were deemed eligible following their Phase 1 eligibility application. These eligible schools would have received an eligibility notice from the program. To access the budget application, please visit the Louisiana Department of Education website, which is www.louisianabelieves.com. On the home page, you'll be able to click on the button that says Access the EANS Application. This will bring you to the Federal Support and Grantee Relations Library. On this page, there are several resources available to assist you when you're filling out your budget application. These resources can be found in the Emergency Assistance to Non-Public Schools program section. These resources will have a Phase 2 designation in their naming convention. We recommend that you review these resources before you start your budget application. When you have reviewed these resources and you are ready to fill out your budget application, please click the Access the EANS Application button. This will take you to the first page of the application. Once here, please click Apply Online. If you are logging in for the first time, you will need to click Sign Up. You will then enter your email address and create a password. Once you have entered this information, please click Sign Up. It is suggested you take note of the email address and password used, as this will be the email address and password used to access the budget application throughout the entire budget application process. Since all eligible schools previously filled out an eligibility application, you might be a returning applicant and can sign in using the login information from the eligibility application. Please note all program communications will be sent to this email address. Please ensure this person who's filling out the budget application has and uses this email address and checks it regularly and will continue to check it regularly over the summer months, as much of the budget application process will take place over the summer. When you are ready and logged in, you're now going to notice you've reached step 1 of the budget application. You can see which step you are in within the budget application by viewing the information at the top of the screen. It will indicate step 1 of 7. Please also note at any time you may hit Save, Draft, and Exit. If you do this, your application will be saved and you can log back in at another time to complete the application. Within step 1, you will be asked to confirm your contact information. This will be the person who receives all communication from the program. After you have filled this out, please hit Next. You are now on step 2 of 7 of the budget application. Once here, you will be asked to fill in your school's name and site code. Eligible schools should fill out the same school name and site code associated with the school that was utilized within their eligibility application. Please note that a junior high school and a high school may have separate site codes and receive separate eligibility notices. These should therefore fill out a separate budget application. Question A3 addresses the fact that your school may opt out of the EANS program. If your school decides to opt out, the application will immediately open to the acknowledgement section for sign-off of this decision. Additionally, your budget application will not be reviewed and your school will not be allowed back into the program. If you wish to proceed with the budget application, please select Yes to question A3. Upon selecting Yes, you will notice that additional questions now appear on the screen. Question A4 asks you to check the box below if the following statement is true. It reads, the school requesting services or assistance did not and will not apply for and receive a loan under the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program that is made on or after December 27th, 2020. Schools must attest they did not and will not apply for and receive a PPP loan on or after December 27th, 2020. This is an eligibility requirement for the EANS program. By moving forward with the budget application, your school is committing to the EANS program and thus should not accept any PPP loans on or after December 27th, 2020. You are now moving on to question A5, where eligible schools may request either or both reimbursements and future expenditures by selecting the appropriate checkboxes. Please note, you do not have to select both checkboxes. You only need to select which checkbox corresponds to your school's request for the EANS program. The final question in step 2, entitled A6, is optional and offers the opportunity for a school to enter your EANS allocated funds as indicated on your notice received from the Louisiana Department of Education or contained on the website within the allocation spreadsheet. This figure can help you keep track of available remaining funds while filling out the next sections of the application. Once you have entered in your final allocation amount, please select Next. If you selected both reimbursements and future expenditures in step 2, you're now going to be on step 3 of the application, reimbursements. If you did not select reimbursements in step 2, you will now be on step 4 of the application, which is current allocation breakdown. The reimbursement section provides some language at the beginning to help guide you in understanding how to fill out this section. It states a non-public school may request reimbursement for certain allowable expenditures incurred and paid after March 12th, 2020 through March 5th, 2021, and also request future procurements from the LDOE and its contractors. The section below is for requesting reimbursements to the school for eligible expenses incurred and paid after March 12th, 2020, but before March 5th, 2021. When requesting reimbursements, please condense requests to a category level. Question B1. Please download and complete the Excel file found at LDOE EANS website, outlining the details of your requests and defining your supporting documentation, and attach the Excel file at the end of the application process. Please also combine and attach any supporting documentation in the relevant categories at the end of the application. Once you have filled out your Excel spreadsheet as indicated in the informational language, please click Add Reimbursements. Also, please note, filling out the required Excel document will be reviewed later on within this presentation. Once you have clicked Add Reimbursements, you will notice a pop-up window with some informational text in purple. The text denotes reimbursements that are not allowed. Please review these as well as the Phase 2 EANS Example Expenses flyer that is available in the Federal Support and Grantee Relations Library for more information on allowable expenses. The text in red also easily links you to the U.S. Department of Education's website for a list of frequently asked questions. You will need to scroll down to continue reading the instructional information prior to entering in anything within the reimbursement section. Question B1 will ask you to select each applicable reimbursement category, and question B2 will ask you to denote the total dollars requested for reimbursement for that corresponding category. Again, the program advises you to complete the required Excel file, which provides detail for all reimbursement categories prior to filling out this section. The Excel file must be attached to the end of the budget application. Please also note, for documenting a purchase of equipment or supplies, you will be required to provide supporting documentation as seen in the purple text. Supporting documentation includes receipts or invoices, purchase orders if used, purchase requisitions if used, and proof of payment. Additionally, for all expenses requested for reimbursement, the school should describe the necessity of the expense in the preparation for, prevention of, and/or response to COVID-related activity within the aforementioned Excel file. You may complete this request for reimbursement for multiple categories. Once you complete a category, if you wish to add another reimbursement, please click Add to Part B Non-Public School Reimbursements for Services or Assistance Required, and a new entry can be made. All reimbursements must be requested for secular, neutral, and non-ideological cost. Also, all reimbursements requested are deemed a higher priority to the budgeted allocation than future procurements in Part C. This means the program will work to review and reimburse schools based on allowable reimbursements prior to working with the school to procure any future procurement requests. Once you have completed the Excel file, please begin entering in all of your reimbursements by category and then entering the total requested dollars per category. Then hit Save. Please note, when you select your option for reimbursement category, you will see several categories listed. Again, you're going to be entering in the total dollar amount per category as it relates to what you filled out within your Reimbursement tab of your Excel document. So for Category 1, supplies to sanitize, disinfect, and clean school facilities, I'm entering in my total requested dollars for the entire category. Once entered, please hit Save. The reimbursement category you just entered should now be visible on the screen. Should you need to add additional reimbursements, again, please click on the Add Reimbursements button. This will bring up the same pop-up window you previously viewed, and you can add additional reimbursements by category. I'm now going to select the Category 2 Personal Protective Equipment and once again enter in the total requested dollars for the entire category of personal protective equipment. You may notice throughout the presentation that there will be several questions listed in the budget application that have a question mark at the end. If you hover over the question mark, it will provide informational text to help you better answer the question being asked. For this question, it says, please supply the reimbursement amount requested by your school. This reimbursement amount should equate to the total per category listed on the reimbursement spreadsheet attached. Once again, when you are ready, please hit Save. Once you have entered in all reimbursement requests, please check your Excel spreadsheet against what you have entered on the screen in order to ensure you have entered in all reimbursement categories your school is requesting. When you are ready, please select Next. You are now on step 4 of 7 of the budget application. This section, the current allocation breakdown section, is for informational purposes and will not require any action on your part. The first 2 boxes will auto-populate based on what you previously entered for your total budgeted allocation and what was entered in step 3 for the reimbursement requests. You should now be able to see your total dollars available for future procurements, also known as the amount of your allocation remaining for procurement after reimbursements have been taken into consideration, and that figure is represented in the 3rd box. For example, we entered in a total budgeted allocation as indicated on my school's allocation notice of $100,000. We then entered in reimbursement requests that totaled $1,500. This means my total dollars available for future procurements is $98,500. When you are ready, please select Next. You are now on step 5 of 7 of the application. This section is for future procurements. The future procurement section provides some language at the beginning to help guide you in understanding how to appropriately fill out this section. It reads, a non-public school may request reimbursement for certain allowable expenditures incurred and paid after March 12, 2020 through March 5, 2021, and also request future procurements from LDOE and its contractors. Please complete this section if you expect to work with the Louisiana Department of Education on procuring goods or services after March 5, 2021. When requesting future procurements, please create all entries at the subcategory level. See question C2. When you are ready, please select Add Future Procurements. This will bring up a pop-up window where the text in red easily links you to the U.S. Department of Education's website for a list of frequently asked questions. You will need to scroll down to continue reading the informational instructions prior to entering anything into the future procurement section. Please complete this section if you expect to work with the Louisiana Department of Education to procure goods and/or services after March 5, 2021. Please accompany requests with a short description, requested number of units, and documentation supporting your request. Procurements, while not guaranteed, will be prioritized according to the priority provided by the school in question C1. When completing this form, please create each entry at the subcategory level. See question C2. Multiple requests per main category, C4, are allowed. Schools are allowed to request more than one future procurement. If the school wishes to do so, please click Add to Part C, Non-Public School Requests for Services or Assistance. Please provide information supporting the necessity of the purchase by indicating the preparation for, prevention of, and/or response to COVID-related activity, and please note all future procurements must be requested for secular, neutral, and non-ideological costs. Please note all future procurements requested are deemed a lower priority to the budgeted allocation than the reimbursements requested in Part B. Once you have read this informational instructions, please begin entering in your request for future procurements. Question C1 requires you to designate a priority to the item being entered. Please note priority 1 is the highest priority. The program cannot guarantee that all items requested for future expenditure will be provided. The priority should indicate to the EANS program in what order your school would like the future procurement items considered. The program will fund procurement items in order of priority, again, 1 being the highest, up to the amount of the school's allocation amount after reimbursements. Question C2 will require you to select a subcategory that applies to your requested future expenditure item. If your item does not fit within one of those categories, please use the other selection. You can see the other selection by scrolling to the bottom, and it's available here. Question C3 asks for the number of items requested per category. Please note this should be entered at the item level. For example, 500 entered into C3 would mean 500 gloves, not 500 boxes of gloves, nor 500 pairs of gloves. Question C4 asks you to select the future procurement category. This category should match the category number seen at the beginning of the subcategory selected in question C2. Future procurement categories are in alignment with the federal guidelines in terms of categories that are allowed for the EANS program. These correspond to the allowable categories. If you have any concerns or questions about which category your item is associated with, please look at question C2 for the category designation before the item being requested. For example, disposable gloves fall under category 1, just like disinfectant. Hand sanitizer, hand soap, masks, and face shields all fall into category 2, which is personal protective equipment. For our example of disposable gloves, we're going to select category 1, supplies to sanitize and disinfect. Question C5 asks for a short description of the requested item. This is an opportunity for you to provide any descriptive information that you were not able to articulate within the previous questions. For example, if I wanted to ensure that the program knew I needed large latex gloves, I would include that information here. And lastly, question C6, for all expenses requested for future procurement, the school should describe the necessity of the expense in the prevention for, preparation of, and/or response to COVID-related activity. For our example of large latex gloves we've entered in, they are required to prevent the spread of germs and clean surfaces. Once you have entered in all of the information for this future procurement request, please select Save. You should now be able to see the future procurement items priority designation, subcategory, and number of items being requested on the screen. To add additional future procurement items, please select Add Future Procurements. You will be required to fill out the same corresponding fields within the pop-up window. Once you have multiple items listed, this is a great opportunity to check your entries against what you've entered into the Future Procurement tab of the Excel spreadsheet. Reminder, the Future Procurement tab is optional and is only provided as a resource to help you ensure you've entered in everything exactly as you would like. You have the opportunity to select any of your pre-populated entries that you've entered in and remove them and/or edit them accordingly on this screen. Should I wish to move my masks up to my priority 1 designation, I simply need to click Edit, and it brings up the pop-up window where I'm allowed to change any of the pre-entered fields. At this point, I must go in and change my disposable gloves to a different priority, as it currently appears I have two number 1 highest priorities. The program will need to ensure that you only have one priority selected for each item being entered in order for the program to accurately be able to determine what your priority designations are. Once you have entered in all of your future procurement requests and you are satisfied with the list of items on the screen, please select Next. You are now on step 6 of 7 within the budget application. This section is for the certification by non-public schools for the Emergency Assistance to Non-Public Schools program. Please read the information in its entirety, as it includes a lot of important information related to your budget application and program participation. After reading this information, please certify under penalty of law that you have read this information, they are true and correct, and that you are the authorized representative of the school. A digital signature box will appear. Please enter your full legal name and hit Sign. Please fill out the remainder of the information and hit Next. You are now on step 7 of 7 of the budget application. Within this section, you will see we are asking for you to upload any attachments. Any box marked Required is required to submit your application. Please note the maximum allowed file size for any upload is 100 megabytes. At this time, you are to upload your completed Phase 2 budget application supporting spreadsheet. This is the required documentation you will need in order to complete your application. You will select Upload and follow the instructions. Once the document has been uploaded, you are to provide any additional required documentation to support your requests for reimbursement or future procurements. Any of the additional documentation required for reimbursement and/or future procurements can be uploaded by using the upload buttons for the corresponding sections below the Excel reimbursement upload. Once all documents have been uploaded, please hit Next. At this time, you may confirm your submission. Please make sure you filled out everything completely and accurately. You may go back and edit this information at any time. After reviewing all of this information, please certify under possible penalty of perjury that the laws of this jurisdiction that the preceding information is true and correct. If so, you may hit confirm and submit. After you select confirm and submit your application will be considered submitted to the EANS program. We will now use this time to go over how to fill out the Excel reimbursement supporting spreadsheet. To access the spreadsheet, please visit the Louisiana Department of Education website, which is www.louisianabelieves.com. Once here, please click on the Access the EANS application button. Under the Emergency Assistance to Non-Public Schools Program resource box, please locate the Phase 2 EANS Budget Application Supporting Spreadsheet. When you click on the spreadsheet, it will download to your computer and allow you to open it to begin filling in your school's information. If upon opening your Excel spreadsheet you are prompted, please select Enable Editing so you may fill out the spreadsheet. Once opened, you will notice there are two corresponding tabs, one entitled Reimbursement and one entitled Future Expenditures. The Reimbursement tab is required to be filled out for all reimbursement requests. The Future Expenditure tab is optional and is intended to provide you with a way to organize your future expenditure requests prior to filling out the Future Expenditure section of the application. We will start by going through the Reimbursement tab. Please read the information at the top of the tab carefully before filling it out. It reads, complete this worksheet to itemize all expenses submitted for reimbursement to the EANS program. Enter each allowable expense on a separate row, populating each provided column as applicable. A summation row is provided for each reimbursement category that should agree to the amounts entered into B2 total requested dollars per category for each reimbursement category of the budget application. Note, your school may receive payment for allowable expenses incurred and paid after March 12, 2020 through March 5, 2021. When you are ready, please begin filling in your school's corresponding information for your request for reimbursement. Column B asks for a cost description. You'll notice that the cost descriptions are organized by our corresponding categories. Category 1 is supplies to sanitize, disinfect, and clean school facilities. If your school purchased disinfectant spray and disinfectant wipes, each of those can be entered into this section. Column C asks for the receipt and/or invoice date. Column D asks you for the invoice or purchase order number. Column E asks for the invoice, purchase order, or receipt total amount. Column F asks for the date paid. And column G asks for the payment method, check, credit card, etc. Column H asks for the vendor name. And column I asks for the claimed amount. Column J asks you to please describe the necessity of the expense in preparation for, prevention of, and/or response to COVID-related activity. For example, for my disinfectant spray, I'm entering in a description saying they were utilized to clean desks and tables. Column K is asking for the supporting documentation file name. This is the supporting documentation that you will be uploading to support the reimbursement request. Information related to what documentation is required was located in the budget application, as well as in the budget application resources that are available in the Federal Grantee and Relations Library. The document I uploaded with my budget application was entitled Category 1 Documents. The information related to this purchase can be found on page 1. Column L is asking you for the supporting documentation page number. In this example, the information for the expense being entered can be found on page 1. Once you have completed your first entry, please continue to fill out the Reimbursement tab with all requests for reimbursement at an itemized level. Once you have completed a category, please enter in your reimbursement request for any other corresponding categories your school would like to submit reimbursement requests. Category 2, personal protective equipment. Category 4, physical barriers to facilitate social distancing. etc. In this example, let's say your school purchased plastic desk dividers. These would be entered in under physical barriers to facilitate social distancing. You will then continue to enter in all of that individual item's particular information. This includes receipt and invoice date, invoice number, invoice, purchase order or receipt total amount, date paid, payment method, vendor, and amount claimed. Once again, you will be required to fill out the description of the necessity of the expense in preparation for, prevention of, and/or response to COVID-related activity. You will also be asked to fill in the supporting documentation file name and page number. Please remember that only the total amount per category is required to be entered into the budget application for reimbursement request. If my school had completely filled out the Reimbursement Tab, we would only be entering in the $1,238 associated with Category 1, supplies to sanitize, disinfect, and clean school facilities within the reimbursement section of the budget application. We would then be entering in $2,500 for Category 4, physical barriers to facilitate social distancing. We would not be entering in an individual entry within the budget application for the $500 disinfectant spray and the $738 disinfectant wipes. Once again, only the total amount per category is entered into the budget application for reimbursement requests. Next, we will look at the Future Expenditures tab. There is information at the top of the tab to help you in filling out the tab appropriately. Complete this worksheet to itemize all requests for future expenditures to the EANS program. Enter each item on a separate row, populating each provided column as applicable. Once completed, rank all items in C1 as priority lists. Column B asks you to enter in the subcategory being requested for future expenditure. From the dropdown, you'll notice there are several pre-populated requests for future expenditure. As previously mentioned, there is a dropdown for another option should your item not be listed within the available dropdown. Column C asks for the number of items being requested. Remember, this is at the item level. Should you enter in 200, this indicates to the program that you would like 200 individual laptops. Column D asks for future procurement descriptions. Here you may enter in any information that you would like that will give the program a little bit more information about the item being requested. Column E asks for the future procurement category. From the dropdown, you can select the applicable category that corresponds to the subcategory being requested. As noted when filling out the budget application, if you're unsure as to what category to select, you can find this information at the beginning of your category selection. For example, laptops is category 7. Educational technology to assist students, educators, and other staff with remote or hybrid learning. And finally, column F says, please describe the necessity of the expense in the preparation for, prevention of, and/or response to COVID-related activity. Schools should continue to enter in future expenditure requests based on their priority designations. Once you have entered in all of your school's future expenditure requests, this is a good opportunity to review your priority designations. You want to ensure that they match and align with what your school truly desires as their #1 priority. For example, when the program reviews a spreadsheet filled out in this manner, this indicates to the program the #1 item needed for this school is 200 laptops. The program will work to procure these 200 laptops before they move on to procuring 10 disinfectant bottle sprays and/or 15 touchless hand sanitizer stations. Should your school need to request more than 20 priority designated items within the future expenditure section, please contact your reviewer through the grant portal or call the program at 1-833-575-1727 or email info@ldoe-ea EANS.com with questions. The phone number and/or email address can be utilized in the instance you have any questions filling out your budget application. Once you have completely filled out the Reimbursement tab and the Future Expenditure tab, you are now ready to begin entering in your budget application information. Please keep this Excel spreadsheet handy as you fill out the budget application, as it will be required to be uploaded at the end of the budget application. Again, all resources that can assist you in filling out the budget application are available on the Louisiana Department of Education website, and the program can always be reached at the previously provided email address and phone number. Once again, that is info@ldoe-eans.com, and that is phone number is 1-833-575-1727. Thank you for your interest in filling out the EANS program Phase 2 budget application.